Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, carrying out your charitable wishes forever, whether it's helping shelter animals, feeding the homeless, enhancing the arts, or supporting students. Learn more at leaveabequest.org.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Once upon a time, it was cool, and everyone from housewives to businessmen to cowboys to movie stars did it. That is, light up a cigarette, take a long drag, and blow out the smoke. And if you were really fancy, you blew smoke rings. But that was before we understood the dangers of smoking. Today, we know that smoking is the most preventable habit that causes death, yet many still need that nicotine fix. Up next on Another View on Health, how to quit smoking. Stay tuned. I'll be back with co-host Cardiologist Dr. Keith Newby right after this news from WHRO and NPR.
Discussing today's topics from an African-American perspective, this is Another View.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. You know, earlier this week, Lisa Godley and I had an opportunity to talk about Another View to the board members of WHRO Public Media. And I neglected to do something that I want to correct right now. And that was to acknowledge Jordan Christie, our audio engineer, and Dr. Barry Graham, who answers our phones, who are very much a part of our production team, and without them, we could not do this show. So I am publicly saying, I'm sorry. We got caught up in the moment talking about how we put the show together, and you guys are so very, very important to us. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. And then secondly, today is a first for me. In my entire career in media, I have never worked on my birthday until today. But you know what? You guys are so special. I had to be here. So it's all good. And I'm really excited because my favorite cardiologist on the planet, Dr. Keith Newby, is here with me today. So hello there. You also just celebrated a birthday.
Yes, I did, and happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Now, I would embarrass myself and sing, but I'm not going to do that today. Because I don't want everybody to turn their radios off because I start singing. So I would just say happy birthday to you. Many, many, many more.
Thank you. Well, we got a really important subject to talk about today. So, but before we get to our guest, you have something special coming up in a couple weeks.
Yes, I do. And I want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to talk about it. We are doing, my foundation, the James E. Newby Jr. Foundation, is putting on a farmers market event that's going to be on July 15th. It's going to be at the Scope Arena parking lot, which is on the corner of Bramerton and St. Paul. And I'm partnering with multiple organizations, including First Baptist Butte Street, Centera, some other organizations, Virginia Beach Public Health Foundation. And what we're trying to do, this is going to be a little bit different. This is going to be kind of a kickoff event. What we're looking to try to do is not just have farmers come in with their produce, but we're actually looking to say, how do we demonstrate health, harvest, help, and hope? And that's going to be the kind of the mantra of this event. We're going to have some healthy eating, cooking demonstrations. We're going to do a Zumba course while we're there. We're going to have smoothies out there, health screenings. We're going to do some fun. We got a corn shucking contest, which I've never done, but I'm going to figure out how to do it that day. A watermelon eating contest, which I'm going to stay away from only because I love watermelon too much. And, I would probably win without any question. But one of the things we wanted to do that's going to be a highlight is the event is going to be as such where when you go to certain stands to buy certain produce, we want to have a QR code which you can do, and you can get some recipes for how to prepare it in a way that's not going to have you come see somebody like me.
That's awesome.
So I think you'll enjoy. It's going to be from 9 a.m. to 12 noon on Saturday, July 15th. Scope Arena parking lot, corner of Brampton, St. Paul's. Please
Is
come
that
out.
the parking lot that's right next to the church, to
Correct.
Historic First Baptist? Okay.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. So
Okay.
it'll be out there. We're going to have a big tent, so don't worry about work because it's going to be 800 degrees. We got I think it's a 1,500 square foot tent that
Wow.
we're going to have there. I think it's huge, but that parking lot is huge too. So we're going to have some fun out there, but I really want to encourage people to come
That's
out.
good. I have to tell you, because Lisa was saying Zumba in the summertime outside.
Yep.
I don't know.
Well, you know something though, but it's going to be early in the morning.
Yes,
so that's
exactly.
one thing.
Exactly.
And then, of course, and I'm going to be there. I'm a cardiologist, so I can help if anybody has any issues. But we're going to teach people. A lot of people will go out in the summer months and do things and get themselves in trouble. So we're going to be out there supervising and helping. We don't want you to come out there and have a heat stroke. That's not the point, And there are things you can do in the summer months that is still healthy for you to get your activity in without the consequences that we don't want you to have.
Now, do you want people to register? Because I see
Yes,
here.
actually, yes.
Okay.
We're going to have an outfit. It's going to be an Eventbrite event. You can look at Community Harvest Farmers Market tickets, and you go to newbyfoundation.org as well.
Okay.
So newbyfoundation.org.
And it is free to everyone, though, right?
Yes, it is. Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Okay. And the produce is at a reduced cost. And I just want you all to hear a couple things they're going to have there. All right. You ready for this? Peaches, watermelon, cantaloupe, blackberries, strawberries, sweet corn, green beans, red potatoes, white potatoes, yellow potatoes, black-eyed peas, butter beans, collards, turnips, kale, zucchini, cucumbers, squash, tomatoes, onions, bell peppers, and range-free eggs. So you cannot beat that list. Oh, I can't wait.
Well, I think, and again, if you come out there to check it out, we really want to make sure that we kick off this in a way that's going to help people live that best life. We don't, sometimes you could take some good things and make it really bad really fast.
Exactly.
By putting certain things in it. I want people to still have that flavor, and there are ways you could do it without killing yourself in the process. And that's the whole point of what we're trying to do.
Soul food, healthy soul food that still
There you
tastes
go.
good. Absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely. So our topic today, Dr. Newby, is we're going to be talking about smoking. And to help us to get through that habit, I know how you feel about that. Please welcome to Another View, tobacco use and dependence treatment coordinator with the Virginia Department of Health, Ms. Rita Miller. Hi, Rita. How are you?
Hello, how are you today? And happy birthday
Thank
to
you.
both of you.
Thank you.
Happy birthday. And I feel like you about working on your birthday. It's like something you just don't do.
I know.
You have to make the sacrifice, right?
I tell you,
So
and
happy birthday.
usually I really try to work my vacations and everything around this day. So, but it feels good. So I'm really glad I am here. So, there's been this whole concentrated effort to encourage people to stop smoking. You got TV ads, billboards, social media, doctor's visit, warning on cigarette packages, social stigma where people turn up their nose and look at you sideways if you're smoking, yet people still do it. So Rita, where is the disconnect? Why hasn't everyone stopped?
Because it's as simple as them being addicted. It's an addiction. It's just like any other drug that we know people are addicted to, such as opium and marijuana, anything else. It's an addiction. And so we always know there are many, many, many people who we see smoking or we know who smoke, but they really and honestly do want to quit, but they can't because they're addicted. And so it's not that, I don't want to call it a disconnect. It's just that they are in a situation that it is extremely difficult to get out of. And one of the things we know as tobacco treatment specialists and those of us who work in tobacco control, we know it is, as I said, an addiction, and it is extremely hard to quit. And so, therefore, that is why we have a program such as the one that I coordinate so that people can get the help that they need to do so. And I'm sure we're going to get into all of that.
Absolutely. So, and on top of that, from my research, I was reading that according to the Lung Association, of Black people who smoke, 3 out of 4 smoke menthol cigarettes, which makes it even harder to quit.
Yes, ma'am. 90% of African Americans who use tobacco are going to be using some type of menthol product. Mm. And that is by design. The tobacco company has figured out some years ago that if it's something in our system, in our DNA, the way that we're made up, that sort of gravitates toward menthol. And so it makes it easy for people to start, easy for them to continue doing it. But the sad part of it is it makes it much harder for them to quit.
So is the menthol addicting also on top of the nicotine?
Most definitely.
Wow.
Most definitely, because it makes it easier for you to use the product because it's not as harsh on your system, not as harsh on your throat. So it kind of feels good going down. The smoke smells good in the air. So it's all of those things that, we gravitate toward, all those things, those feel good things that are not good for us and making us sick and making us unhealthy.
So Keith, what happens to the body when you smoke?
Well, essentially, look at it like this. When you take a drag on a cigarette, essentially what happens when that smoke enters your lungs, you think about your lungs are filters, so they're designed to filter things out. So all the tar and nicotine that you take into your lungs is going to get deposited there. Some gets in through, and when you take that breath in, you could almost look at it like a train station. Look at people as like oxygen molecules. And you look at the box cars as like your red blood cells, because when you take a breath in, it's like the train coming up to the train station, and people like oxygen getting on the train. So you have to have a big enough platform to fill up all the box cars, and the train takes off. So look at that as like your red blood cells transmitting oxygen. So when you take that breath of smoke in, over time, it shortens the platform, so you can't get as many people on. And it's almost like the smoke also knocks oxygen off the red blood cells. So it's almost like if a conductor says, I don't want you getting on this train, it won't let you get on. So when the train leaves, it's carrying less oxygen to be transmitted to the rest of the body. And your body, we're carbon and oxygen molecules, essentially. So when you're smoking, you're creating damage almost everywhere. Anywhere blood cells go, your potential damage. That's why people have so much in terms of strokes, heart attacks, vascular disease. Then you talk about the lung issues that can come out, COPD or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. It could impact diabetes. It can cause vision problems because essentially what you're doing is you're narrowing the vessels because the tar and the nicotine, but nicotine especially, is a vasoconstrictor. So you're constricting arteries everywhere when you do this. So anywhere blood goes, the potential that the tobacco can cause problems is like you think about your teeth, your eyes, your vision, legs. You got vascular disease, people will get claudication or peripheral vascular disease, the stroke risks, heart attack risks, all that plays a factor. So the list goes on and on. It's amazing how much that can do. And to chime in on Ms. Miller's comment, I've been doing this job for a minute, and you notice I don't say the actual number of years.
Yeah, I noticed that, but go ahead.
So it's kind of interesting.
He still wants you to think he's 20, but that's okay.
But I tell you, it's interesting when I've had people that have been addicted to many things, from alcohol to smoking or cigarettes to heroin, cocaine, and I'm gonna tell you, I've seen no addiction like tobacco. I've had people literally tell me that they had less problems getting off heroin than they did getting off cigarettes.
Wow.
The tobacco companies got people good. I mean, that's like one of the most addicting substances I've ever seen.
Well, Rita, I was reading up on, a lot of things on your website, which is just fabulous. But the whole idea of how tobacco companies target the African American community in terms of how they product placement, the way that they advertise. Can you talk about that?
Sure, and let's extend that a little bit more. Not only
Okay.
to the African American community, it's also to the LGBTQ plus community. It's also to the Hispanic community, and what's really, really bad is also to our youth.
Mm.
So think about when we go to the corner stores, we in our communities, and you look at all the tobacco advertisement. If you would think back in your mind, that advertisement is right at the eye level of a kid. And everything looks cool and sexy and fun and, that's what you want to do. And because they're sucking out our people and our kids and these other population groups in. And they do it and they want you to start using these products as young as you possibly can, because what they're looking for are smokers who will be with them for a very long time because of what? The addiction.
Yeah.
So if you start smoking at 13, 14 years old, and, just a little bit, as you get older, that's going to increase. As you get older, that's going to increase. And therefore, what are we doing, or what are they doing? Continue to increase and build the coffers of the tobacco company. And so, yes, they do prey upon our young people. They do prey upon the African American community with the use of menthol. And then for other population groups, when people see themselves and what they believe in that picture or in that video or whatever they're looking at in a light that they would want to be in, and if a cigarette or some type of tobacco product is part of it, and you are inclined, or they may be inclined to use the product and continue to use the product. And then they become addicted to the product, and then we have the problem. And just like Dr. Newby says, all of those issues that happen to all parts of our bodies, because, we have one of our brochures that talks about how tobacco affects every organ in your body because of the reasons he just shared with us. And so we have to be very, very aware of what we are doing to ourselves, and educate people about what they're doing to themselves when they decide, or when they, just take the try of a cigarette or any other tobacco product.
So let's dispel a myth also, because some people say, well, I don't smoke cigarettes, I vape, and it's not going to affect me the same. Is that true?
Wrong. This is kind of simple. Wrong. No,
she didn't hesitate on that one.
Vape, vape is not water vapor. It's stuff. It's nicotine. It's all kinds of other things. And in some vapes, we don't know what's in them. And keep in mind, and this is not the subject matter that we in the tobacco control program work on, but it could be marijuana in the vape, it could be anything in those vapes, but we really don't know. And you're not doing yourself any good by using it. Now, I know there's some who are of the thinking that if you vape, you will not be on, you might be able to get off a cigarette. But then you have a lot of what I am seeing is people are dual users. So they vape where they can vape, and then they smoke where they can't smoke, because you can't smoke everywhere.
True.
But you can vape some places that you can't smoke. And so then, you got the dual problem. So now you're addicted to not one thing, but two things.
So, Dr. Newby, I know that when I go for my regular checkups and so forth, and I know that doctors do this, I know you do it because you've asked before. So if someone comes in to see you and you ask them if they smoke, and they tell you yes, what is your reaction to them? Be nice.
I always give the evil eye look. So that's the first thing I get, and they'll say, and I have to, diplomatically, do things, especially if it's a brand new patient. You don't want to start beating people up from day one. You got to gain their trust first, then you beat them up later. But I will give them the look, and they'll say, yeah, I know. And I'll say, well, you sure you know? And I will spend that time going over this with them, because I want them to understand why they need to stop. What are the harmful effects that will happen? And this is the prime story. Somebody will say, well, my uncle, he stopped smoking, and also he got cancer after that, or they have some other issue. I say, well, listen, just because he stopped is just timing. I said the cancer was probably there beforehand. It just didn't come out. It wasn't discovered until after he stopped. I said stopping smoking will help over time, it will halt the process where you are. Now, it still can cause damage because depending on how long you've been smoking, it could really mess some things up. But, at least if you stop, you're not continuing to add misery to mayhem, So that's one thing. And the one thing I wanted to bring out on the vaping, just so some of the younger people will know that, when you're young, you're adolescent, you're still developing. You haven't stopped yet. Your brain is still developing. And it has been shown that vaping can slow the synapses that cause the brain function to be normal. So you can have a slower development, mental and physical, as a result of vaping. So a lot of people think, like Ms. Miller said, that it's no big, that they'll say, it's an alternative to cigarettes. It shouldn't be a big deal. But as she mentioned, the dangers of that are just, and sometimes it's even worse because you talk about concentrated nicotine. You're not talking like, some of the other crap they put in cigarettes that can mess you up, but you're talking concentrated nicotine going in your lungs. And even those things where they make it sound like there's no nicotine in there at all, there's always going to be some, because there's no point in vaping water. There's going to be some nicotine in there, and that may be less than, and they'll say zero, but it's like zero sugar. Half the time they say that, there's still something in there. So that's just what you have to be aware of. And I want to push that issue on the younger people, because they think that there's no harm to vaping, but there is. It will, because again, that concentrated nicotine is going to cause vasoconstriction, which you don't need to have, plus the slow brain function that has as a result of that. Then plus you talk about withdrawal symptoms when you try to stop, potentially. So the first thing I do is go through them with the dangers, and I will always encourage them to do this. And I'll tell you the reason why I asked Ms. Miller, I wanted her up here, after speaking to her, and I found out this program that they have, and I'm sure you'll get into this as we go along, but there's no really good programs around here. None of the real hospital systems have any smoking cessation programs. Now, really, they used to years ago. They just stopped. So when I was looking to try to develop one, and I found Ms. Miller's, I said, "Oh, snap!" I said, "Great!" I'll have to reinvent the wheel. I said, so that's when I reached out to her, and she was so accommodating. I just say, oh, yeah, we got to go roll with this, because people need to have, because people will say to me, I want to quit, but I don't know how.
Exactly.
So that's kind of the other thing. But
well,
anyway.
Then let's get into Quit Now, Virginia. But just before we do, 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call to join our conversation. Are you a smoker who wants to quit and you'd like some advice? Give us a call. Are you a former smoker, and can you give some advice to those who may be trying to quit? Let's hear from you. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. We got a question from Facebook. Lynn from Chesapeake wants to know, she said, what about weed? The last time I was at the doctor, she asked if I smoke, and I told her weed, and she said that doesn't count, does it?
It always counts. Because if you're if you're inhaling something that's foreign, that's going into your lungs, it's just like going and working in a coal mine factory. You're breathing in something that's not, air. It's different from air. So a lot of people think, and there's data now talking about the cardiovascular risk of marijuana. So I don't want people to think, okay, because I'm going to tell you, Barbara, I think you and I have had this conversation before. I have not walked across the street from this building, Fort Norfolk, to Norfolk Jones parking lot. I ain't smelled some weed out there. I'm like, I'm just like, can I come across the street once? And it's like 7 a.m. I'm like, really?
Wow.
So, I'm like, what in the world? So, yes, weed can hurt you. There may be a different effect, but it's still, you're putting some foreign in your lungs that can impact both your brain, your lungs, your heart.
If you're just joining us, we're talking about ways that you can kick the smoking habit with Rita Miller, Tobacco Use and Dependence Treatment Coordinator with the Virginia Department of Health, and my co-host for Another View on Health, Cardiologist Dr. Keith Newby. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. We would love to hear from you. If you are struggling with trying to quit and need some advice, give us a call. call, or if you are a former smoker and you've gone through the process and you have some things to share, we'd love to hear from you. Rita, talk to us about Quit Now, Virginia. What is that?
Okay, I'm going to talk to you about Quit Now, Virginia, but I want to go back because I think this is so important. When Dr. Newby talked about the concentrated tobacco or nicotine, what people don't know or understand is that there are devices out there that people are using to vape that has as much nicotine in it as one pack of cigarettes.
What? Say that again?
Yeah. That's the reaction that I want you to have, because that's what I want people to know. You got this little thing that looks like a USB called a Juul that has as much nicotine in it as one pack of cigarettes, 20 cigarettes in that little thing.
Wow.
And I don't know how many pulls, tokes, whatever you take off of it, but still, that is a lot of concentrated nicotine.
Yeah. And nicotine is the addiction, is what causes the addiction.
Yeah. And also, and also the health problem. And tobacco has all other additives to it, because there are over, I got the number, like 700 chemicals in a cigarette. Because by the time, you have the additives to the cigarette already, and then think about lighting it on fire. Once you take that lighter and strike it up, that turns it into a whole other thing. And think about the carcinogens that you now are inhaling into your body. And so I think that's one of the things that we need to let people know, is that it's just not this simple plant. There's a lot of other things that are in cigarettes, and I would want people to Google what is in a cigarette, and they would be so surprised. It's things that you would find in your garage, like benzene and cadmium, and things that you use in embalming fluid, and things that you use in your battery. All of those things have found themselves their way into a cigarette. And so it's not just a simple product that you pulled out the earth. No, it's a lot of other things to make that work. And as I said, then you set it on fire. Wow. So
I hope y'all heard that. Yeah. Embalming fluid.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Embalming fluid, know what that is. So when you die and you go to the funeral parlor, that's what they putting you to preserve you. That's what you're taking
in your body. So, and there are other products. So like I said, I would just encourage people to just Google. The Google box will tell you everything. What's in a cigarette? And you're going to see this list, and you're going to be like, what? And that's what I want you to be like, what?
Okay.
Because I want, because if we can move you to, coming to Quit Now, Virginia, which we're going to talk about, I would want you to do that.
Okay, so let's talk about Quit Now, Virginia. What is it?
Yes, let's go there. Quit Now, Virginia is the Department of Health program to help people who are tobacco users, and this is tobacco and nicotine in any form. You can vape, you can use combustibles, which is a cigarette. You can use non-combustibles, the dips, snooze, snuff, chew, whatever you're doing that you're not smoking, but it's still tobacco. We provide services so that people can take their journey toward quitting. Now, we always hear about people who quit on their own, and we're happy for them. But most people cannot do that, because there's so many triggers. And there are people who have tried over 30 times to quit and have not, because, as I said, it's difficult to do. And that's why we have trained counselors. These people take over 240 hours of training to help individuals quit using whatever their product may be, whatever tobacco nicotine product they are using. There's help out there for them to quit. Also, okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, is that help free, or is there a cost?
It is absolutely free. Everything we provide at the Virginia Department of Health, be it the counseling, being the nicotine replacement therapy, we offer patches and gum, resources. We will send you mail to your house. We will send you mail to your email. All of that is free. And I like to tell people, and I think that's one of the things we don't say in the world of government. You've already paid for this with your tax dollars. Use it. You pay for it.
Gotcha.
This is what our taxes pay for. These kinds of things, these kinds of services. So use them. We don't charge you a dime for any of this. And we encourage you. We want you. We need you Because we at the Virginia Department of Health, our slogan is we're trying to make Virginia the healthiest state in the nation.
Gotcha.
And tobacco is kind of our barrier. It's standing in our way. Virginia spends $3.6 billion a year on people who are tobacco users who are unhealthy and trying to get them healthy. That's a lot.
Yeah,
of
that's a
money.
lot of money. Our phone lines are lit up, so I want to take some calls right now. Let's go
Okay,
to
let's do that.
Anita in Chesapeake. Hi, Anita. You're on the air.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I quit smoking 25 years ago, and I learned something. My doctor was very helpful in encouraging me to quit. It's two things: the nicotine addiction and the habit. When you smoke, how you smoke, the times of day that you smoke. The habit is worse than the addiction to the nicotine. The patch will take care of the nicotine, but the hardest thing to change is the habit. So I bought those little round lollipop sticks, and I kept them with me everywhere because it was what I did when I drive, what I did with my left hand, how I hold my cigarette. When I had a drink, I had to have that thing in my hand. So that was the hardest thing, and my doctor encouraged me to use the patch as directed, but then buy an extra pack of it, and as I step down, go all the way to cut the patches in half and step it down as long as I felt that I needed it. It took me about 6 weeks, 8 weeks to quit, and the nicotine part was gone. It was the habit that I had.
That was the problem. Okay, Anita, let's let our guests respond to that. Thanks so much for the call. Go ahead, Rita.
Oh, I am so appreciative for that because it is about the habit. It's about, when you wake up in the morning, what do? You grab your cigarette. When you go to get your coffee, what do? You grab your cigarette. When you get in the car. And she is so right. It's about, what your body has become accustomed to doing with this little thing in between your two fingers. And as she said, we can get rid, the nicotine part, we can work with that. But it's the habit, just the habit of, putting your hand up to your mouth several times a day with this thing, between your fingers. And so it's two things that you have to work on. The addiction of that, but just that ongoing habit that some people do all day long because, we have our pack a day and 2 pack a day and 3 pack a day smokers. So I think about how many times and the things that trigger them that in their mind says, okay, it's time for a cigarette because I just finished eating. It's time for a cigarette because I just took a drink. It's time for a cigarette because I just woke up. And so we have to move past all of that. And that is one of the things that Quitting Virginia helps you with because it gives you other it teaches you other things to do in those times when you would be using your tobacco product. We talk about being mindful about your quit. Seeing yourself healthy, seeing yourself without that product, your cigarette or vape pen or whatever in your hand. So you have to imagine yourself there. Be very mindful about how you go about your quit journey. So I really appreciate Anita's statement because she is so correct about that.
Absolutely. Let's talk to Pat in Williamsburg. Hi, Pat. You're on the air.
Yes, I'm here. I quit about 40 years ago, and I just quit cold turkey. And the reason I did is because I have 2 children, and my little boy was starting to notice about smoking, and I even saw him one day trying to get into my cigarettes, and I said, oh no, this is not going to work. So I just quit, and that was my reason.
Okay. Thanks, Pat, for the call. We appreciate that. I was going to ask about secondhand smoke, Rita.
Yes, let's talk about that. Okay, so I appreciate Pat's comment because a lot of times when people do decide that they want to quit, it's just for the reason she said. It's for their kids. It's for their family. Because we have to think about this secondhand smoke. I remember when I was a young girl, and it seemed like everybody in my class had asthma. I was like, why does everybody have asthma? Now I know it's because, tobacco use was prevalent in the homes of people when we were young, and it causes us as kids to be sick. It causes asthma. It also, one of the other things people don't know, it causes ear infection. Everybody was walking around with cotton in their ears because they had an ear infection, right? And so, but it was because of the secondhand smoke. Now, the other thing And so let me finish this thought. The secondhand smoke, it does cause health issues with those who don't smoke, as we're saying. The other thing we have to be concerned about, and I don't know if people understand or know about, is third-hand smoke.
And what is third-hand smoke?
Third-hand smoke is the smoke that stays in the textiles in the room, in the curtains, in the seat cushions, in the rug, on the wall. That never goes away. So you continue. So even though the smoker is gone, the secondhand smoke is gone, you're still inhaling all of that because it's in those things that are in the room.
So, Dr. Newby, when somebody comes in to see you and they're having heart trouble or whatever, do you automatically assume that they are a smoker?
No.
Okay.
I think the first thing is always you have to gain that trust and know how to ask certain questions, because you'd be surprised how people are with that. Now, the funniest thing to me is I have the most keen nose in the world. So when I have somebody like they'll tell me they stopped smoking, but yet I smell cigarette smoke on them, and when they talk, I can smell it on their breath. I guess they may think I'm not as sensitive as I am, so they'll sit there and say I'm not smoking. I'm like, well, son, you're doing something. So whatever that something is, because I'm whiffing something here, and it smells like tobacco to me. So then sometimes you'll give them to fess up, but you never assume anything. You ask questions, and you have to ask them sometimes several different ways to get people to understand what you're asking them. Saying, do you smoke? They'll say, that's like when the weed stuff comes out, they'll say, no, I don't smoke. I have to be very specific. Do you smoke cigarettes? Do you smoke cigars? Do you smoke Black and Milds, which is good in our folks? They love them Black and Milds. Do you smoke marijuana? You have to be specific in your questions. And I have some people that will say, you make it sound like, oh, yeah, I used to smoke, but it was a long time ago. When'd you quit? You'd be surprised how many people will say last week. I said, what do you mean they quit a long time ago? So that's all perception. So it really, you have to be inquisitive and never just assume because you ask it one way that is the way it is.
So Rita, since nicotine is addicting, then that means that when you stop, there are withdrawal symptoms, correct?
Most definitely.
Okay, so what are some of those, and what are some of the things that people should expect as they start their quit journey, as it is called on Quit Now Virginia? And what's that website, by the way? Is it quitnowvirginia.org?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I thought I had it right.
Yes.
quitnowvirginia.org.
Yes.
Okay.
One of the main things that people complain about, especially women, when they quit smoking, is they start eating more. And a lot of women, because that's where we hear this from, they are hesitant to quit smoking because they don't want to gain weight. But you got to balance that thing. What is worse for you? Some people will have headaches, and there are certain people who can get through, but there are triggers. Sometimes it's family situations. It could be, sometimes it can be people. It could be stressful situations. It just triggers you. You've done well, and then all of a sudden this thing happens, and then that sends you right back down that path, and then you got to start all over again. And we encourage you to start all over again with your quit journey, because we don't want people to think that just because you started quitting, or you started your way toward quitting and something happened, you had a relapse, as we call it. We don't want you to think that you have failed, because it is not a failure. It's just a relapse. It is what it is. And you start all over again. We had this program we were involved with called Quit and Stay Quit Mondays, because the evidence shows when people want to start something new or want to start a new habit, they want to lose weight or whatever, they start on a Monday. And so we would say, say on Thursday you slipped, on Monday, start again. Just start that journey again. We don't want people to think, as I said, because it didn't happen for you the way you wanted it to happen for you before, it doesn't mean that you are going to stop there, or you should stop there. You should just, pick up where you left off and keep it moving, because the goal is to quit.
So Kevin sends us a note from Facebook. He said there's been a surge in the popularity of cigar establishments. Are they getting a pass?
No, they're not getting a pass. Nobody gets a pass. No, Kevin. Nobody gets a pass. We don't like that. I mean, but here it is. It's a business, and we're in Virginia. You know, it's a tobacco state. And so, you know, somebody that goes to get their license, it's a legitimate business, but it doesn't mean it's a healthy, legitimate business. And we would want people not to frequent that business or utilize that business. But they do. But and if they become addicted to cigars, and, you know, Quitting Air Virginia is there for them as well.
You know, that's interesting because, Keith, people say, well, with a cigar, you don't inhale it. But, in fact, you do inhale the smoke anyway, don't you?
Yeah, because, I mean, I'm not sure what they mean. Maybe they're saying they don't swallow it, smoke, you know, like some people do. I don't know what the word they mean, because I'm like, if you're sucking it in, you're breathing it. You know? So I'm not sure where people come. I think a lot of things, you know, people are just trying to find ways to justify what they do, you know, or to say, well, what I'm doing is not as harmful to me as something else. But, you know, cigar smoke is a link to gum disease, tooth loss, increases risk of coronary disease, you know, lung problems, just like cigarettes are. So, you know, it's just a different form of tobacco, but it's still tobacco. You know, so I want to make sure people understand there's no such thing as a safe inhalant, you know, like that. I mean, there's nothing that's safe about any of this stuff. And I tell people all the time, realize, you know, you ever see those commercials where they always have somebody's face all jacked up because they were smoking, and they say, don't let this happen to you. Some of that stuff is legit. I mean, you know, when I say some of it, I mean, it all is, but of course that's the extreme.
Well, you know, I was going to ask you, is it a guarantee, if you are a smoker, is it a guarantee that you're going to get sick from smoking?
No, it's not a guarantee. Nothing in life is guaranteed. However, you know, when you look at, like, say you take 100 people to smoke, I guarantee the vast majority of them are going to have something, you know, and it's not going to be, you may have, like, somebody say, oh, my grandfather smoked and he was 100. I'm like, he was blessed too, because he's one of the few that, you know, can get there. I mean, when you see the devastation of what that can do, see, the thing is, in my world, I have to deal with that on a regular. So I know how that is. When you have to deal with the aftermath of what that can do, it's really devastating.
Yeah. So pay attention, folks. Let's talk to Glenn in Yorktown. Hi, Glenn. You're on the air.
Hi. First time caller, long time listener.
Thank you for calling. We appreciate it, and thanks for listening.
My wife and I are both going through the quitting stage right now, and we're doing it for several reasons, of course. One main is the health reason, but I've smoked all my life, and so has she. And I have quit before. I've quit for 9 years before picking them back up again. And so this time, hopefully, this will be my last time to go through this. But I don't find it all that difficult myself. Maybe I'm lucky in that way. As far as the urge goes, I don't have that anymore after 2 weeks. It's only been 2 weeks. But the urge is gone. But we're doing this on a reward-type system, I think. It makes sense to us. And
so you reward yourself for each week that you get through, or what? What does that mean?
We're showing our results, basically.
Gotcha.
So one way is the pulse oximeter. Another way is the blood pressure cuff. And another way is the credit card. So with the pulse ox meter, we've both had some poor readings in the past, especially my wife. Sometimes, you know, low 80s, or high 70s. And at times it's become scary. Now, just 2 weeks later, she could pop it on and get a 98% reading on the pulse ox at any time. The other thing is my blood pressure has dropped. I'm on blood pressure medicine, and I'm probably going to be consulting my doctor about getting off of it eventually. But my blood pressure has dropped way down into the great normal zone instead of being high. And the third thing is we're waiting on our next credit card statement, because we know, doing the math, how much we spend on smoking, and it is terrible. When you put that figure together at the end of the month and realize how much you're spending, it's incredible. For two adults smoking 2.5, possibly 3 packs a day for one, and a pack and a half for another person. That's a lot of money.
Glenn, if you don't mind my asking, you said you had quit for 9 years. Was there something that triggered you to make you go back to it?
There was.
Oh,
okay. There was a terrible divorce way back in the day. When I got married, my wife and I decided we were going to quit on our, after our honeymoon, and we did quit for 9 years. And then after that 9 years, after going through that terrible situation, I just kind of didn't have much will to keep it up at that point. It was just,
okay.
I needed something.
I appreciate you sharing that with us. Thanks so much for calling us. I want to give our guests a chance to respond. Rita, we were talking about those triggers. So even after 9 years, even that's a long time, and still a trigger can happen.
It can happen, but please let me speak to the money.
Okay.
Because
go ahead.
Because when Glenn said credit card, I was like, "Ooh, credit card! Can they not buy something? Or are they going to buy something when this is over?" But he spoke to. Oh, he just hit me because we have a card called the You Save card, and it's just what he said. We have this little card. On the front, it talks about Quit Now, Virginia, and how you get in touch with us. On the back, it talks about how much money you save if you quit, and we had broken it down by day, week, month, year, and 5 years.
You want to give us some numbers?
Okay, so a pack of cigarettes is like $7 and something a month. And a day.
Okay,
you smoke a day, and so if you smoke. Well, let me pull up I have an old one that we used to use because the first one we did, of course, cigarettes have gone up, but it can be up to $5,000 in a 5-year period, probably more than that now.
Wow. And
so we would see men and women literally clutch their pearls when they saw how much money they were spending. I'm serious, I've seen people say, "Oh my God, I'm spending," and then when they think about it, they were spending that kind of money. And we're thinking about what you can do, in a month's time or a year's time when you spent $2,000-$3,000 on some cigarettes, and what you could do for that. All the while you want to take this nice vacation to Florida and stay a week.
Yeah.
And so, we want people to, kind of put those two things together, what that looks like and, how it affects your pocket, not only your health, but, the health of your pocketbook. Yes. Because, they're not giving them out. When you go to the store and buy I don't even know what a carton of cigarettes costs. But I bet you it's a big amount of money.
So we've got about 5 minutes left, and I want to ask one other question of you, Rita, before we go. If a parent is, someone has teens in the house, how can they tell if their teen is vaping? And how should they approach their teen about it?
Okay. How can they tell if their kid is vaping? If if they aren't aware of the devices that are out there, they probably won't know. I work in this industry, and I'm always surprised with the next thing that they tell me that they can use to vape with now. They now have, like, hoodies that have this little pocket in it that you can put your vape pen in.
Oh, wow.
And vape on it wherever you are. I've heard parents actually say to me, because the Juul, which is a vape pen, looks like the USB that we put into our computers to, save our work or save our whatever. And kids were ordering them online. They were coming to the house. Mama would say, "Johnny, your USB came, for school." And no, it's the vape pen. So parents don't really know. They don't know. But what we have done at Quit Now, Virginia, because when vaping became the epidemic that it now is, we knew that we had to do something to help our young people quit, because just like adults are addicted to cigarettes, they were now addicted to vaping. And so we created this program called Live Vape Free. And Live Vape Free is a cessation program for youth, 13 to 17. to help them quit using vape products.
Mm-hmm.
And also with that, we created an online course for parents and adults, so not only parents in the household, but for teachers, for our educators, for those who work in recreation and park facilities, those who manage kids or coordinate programs at youth-serving organizations, because all kids vape. Now, let's not get this twisted. You can think you got the good kid and the smart kid. That don't mean they're not vaping.
Mm.
And so we wanted everybody to be on the same page about this. And so with this online course, it teaches you about the risks, the burden, the harms of vaping, but it also, we provide for you a toolkit so that you can have the information that you need. But we also talk to you about or teach you how to have the conversation with your kids because, of course, your kid is going to think that they know more than you do.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want you to have the screaming match at the house with the kid about, doing something that's not good for them. We want you to come to them with tested, tried, and true and evidence-based information about how to have the conversation, what you need to say, and how you need to help your kid or your kids or your kid or the kids that you work with become
Absolutely.
more healthy and to, gravitate to this program, use the program so that you can stop vaping, so that you will not gravitate toward combustibles or cigarette because one day you're not going to be able to afford that vape pen because keep in mind they cost money and they're expensive
Yeah,
too.
they're going up too. We are just about out of time, but I do want to tell people to go to quitnowvirginia.org and you will find out information for teens, for adults, for anyone who is trying to stop. Thank you so much, Rita Miller, for joining us today to talk about this. And Dr. Newby, you get the last minute.
Oh, man. Wow. Well, thank you. One quick comment. I think the gentleman that called in, he said something about the pulse oximeter.
Mm-hmm.
Just be aware that pulse oximeter is just saying how much oxygen is being transmitted to the bloodstream. It's not measuring lung damage. So you can still be damaging your lungs, even though your saturation may be good. Don't get it twisted that that's everything. The transmission of oxygen is great that it's doing it, but it can still, your lungs can still be getting damaged, and you can still develop emphysema, although your oxygen levels are still normal. So I would just say this, the dangers, the potential risks, like say cancer risks, you can make your diabetes worse, the lung problems, the cardiovascular issues. I would say please take this into consideration, and what you do may affect others. Because they secondhand, thirdhand smoke. So please stop. That's the best thing I could say.
And don't forget also that the farmers market is happening on July the 15th from 9 a.m. until noon at the Scope Park Arena parking lot at the corner of Brambleton and St. Paul's in Norfolk. And you can go to the newbyfoundation.org and find out more information. Thank you so much, Dr. Newby. We appreciate you. All righty. You take care. And I hope, audience, that the information we shared with you today will help you give up cigarettes for good. If you have a smoker in your circle, please share this show with them. Go to anotherviewradio.org and download the podcast. And while you're there, sign up for our eView newsletter. We're finally building our numbers back. It's a once-a-week reminder of upcoming shows. Next week on Another View, everybody loves a good story. And guess what? We're going to have the storytellers to prove it. And next week starts our 13th year on the radio. 13 or 14, Lisa? I forgot. 14th year on the radio. Wow. Our theme music is an original composition created especially for Another View by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Jordan Christie is our audio engineer, and Danielle Saunders answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Enjoy the extended 4th of July holiday weekend and join us again as we begin our 14th year on the radio next Thursday at noon for Another View. And thank you for my birthday music. Y'all take care.
Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, partnering with donors from all walks of life to improve southeastern Virginia through grants, scholarships, and leadership initiatives. Learn more at hamptonroadscf.org.